Right, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Members, I move that the bill entitled the Public Order Amendments Act 2020 be read.
Naso, the Minister of Information and Communication, Mohamed Rahman Soare, been moved the motion at the well of the Salone Parliament for make MP them read for the first time Part 5 of the 1965 Public Order Act, we now na bill for make MP them pull come out at the Salone law book them. This na the second term where the Minister of Information they do this process na the well of Parliament as the last term where this been happen na inside December 2019. During that term day, the first term leader of government business we now na the Speaker of the ECOWAS Parliament, Honorable Sidi Mohamed Tunis, been tap the process for repeal this bill because it's a Parliament need for satisfy say other law them for they for protect Salone people them good name from people them or journalists them we get the habit for talk or write bad thing them what people were not true. But finally, Thursday, July 16, 2020, the process for pull Part 5 of the 1965 Public Order Act na the Salone law them been carried on at the well of the Salone Parliament as MP them been agree for read this bill for the first time back as the Minister of Information and Communication been moved the motion. But why it important for make MP them pull this particular law from the country in law book them? The Minister of Information and Communication, Mohamed Rahman Soare, explain.
We have brought this bill today for reading so that we could address a historical quagmire that this country has found herself in. 55 years on, we have continued to maintain the criminal libel law on our law books. By retaining this provision, it puts us in violation of 12 other international legislations. We believe that it's time that we join other progressive nations of the world to change it. You could also recall that it is part of His Excellency's very, very, very entrenched commitment to this nation to ensure that once voted in as President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, he will ensure that the criminal libel law is repealed. These steps we are taking, and our presence here today is a testimony to that commitment. Furthermore, Right Honorable Speaker, Honorable Members of Parliament, I also wish to note that because of the presence of the criminal libel law provisions in our law books, the media in Sierra Leone has not been able to attract much needed investment into the sector because both public and private sector investors are scared to invest resources in the media for fear that with this Damascus sword hanging over the shoulders or the heads of media practitioners, they might wake up one morning and all their investment is feasible. Because along the supply chain, right from the editor, right from the readership, publisher, everybody who gets anything to do with an article deemed seditious or libelous, could go to jail. So we are committed to decriminalizing the practice of journalism.
Honorable Catherine Zainab Tarawali, they represent constituency 37 na Makeni Bombali districts. Himself na been journalist at one point in time. He say this process will mark one very important history event, and not just for journalists them, but for everybody we believe for say in mind for make other people them free and self make the country develop.
Mr. Speaker, I've been a journalist all my life, and it is the profession that I cherish so much. I will go back to this field after my lifetime as a politician because I like and I love the pen. The freedom of the pen is a momentous day, Mr. Speaker. It's not just for journalists, but it is for people that are very good writers. We have free writers in Sierra Leone. We have people that can write very well for the freedom of others in Sierra Leone. So for us to stand here today, I feel very successful, Mr. Speaker. I feel like somebody that has achieved my dream. And it is a dream come true. Being part of this session, being part of this process, for us to repeal this bad law that has served this nation for 55 years, makes me feel honored. Mr. Speaker, I want to say thank you, and I want to doff my hat for the present president of Sludge and the past president of Sludge. Because in my time as Sludge member, I was under the presidency of the Honorable Ivy Campbell, and Sludge was very unique. I've been a SLAD member for a very long time, so I know what it means to be a SLAD member, and I know the importance of us repealing this particular obnoxious act of 1965, especially the part 5 of 1965. Mr. Speaker, in our Timini language, our people say, that is SO2, Mr. Speaker. In Creole, we say, free poor better pass title. And what I mean, what I want to say here, free poor in Creole, poverty, my freedom in my poverty, is better than me to have what we call a tight and a closed riches. What it means, for me to have what we call a free pen, a free black and white today, means freedom for Sierra Leone. Not just freedom for sludge, not just freedom for the Ministry of Information, not just freedom for us as legislators, but it's freedom for the Sierra Leonean as well.
The leader of the National Grand Coalition NGC party in the Salone Parliament, Honorable Dr. Kande Yumkela, lent in voice to this debate, who said a register in party in support for the repeal of Part 5 of the 1965 Public Order Act, when had the criminal libel law, but been cautioned journalists them not for use this and turn to free Mandela for poor respectable people the name.
We believe in the freedom of expression. We support press freedom. And so we commend the Honorable Minister and the government for bringing the repeal of this act. We commend our elder brother, Honorable Ivy Kagu, for presenting the genesis of this act, but also for giving real testimony of how this act has been abused by various governments. And to prevent future abuse, therefore we support the repeal of this act. However, we join the other colleagues who have also mentioned the risk of reputational damage. We have seen, some of us have been in government before, we've been ministers before. We have seen articles written that have nothing to do with the reality of what was going on. We have had our characters assassinated, and people know, they do it deliberately, they know you will not go to court. I was a minister when somebody wrote an interview that never took place, question and answer on my behalf, but they have never contacted me. We have seen articles written, and at the end, the journalist said, could not reach him for comment. I can give some examples, very recent examples. Five years ago when I came here, there was a headline that I brought mercenaries to Sierra Leone. The person went scot-free. Yeah, we've seen a lot of abuse, and so we are of the opinion that there has to be safeguards. Who are targeted? The people that are targeted are typically prominent citizens of this society. It makes the paper sell. Some people use it for blackmail. Some people use it just to keep you quiet. Politicians are victims. In fact, we are the fodder. People enjoy writing about politicians and say, I know SO2. They can't do anything. When I was a minister, yes, I had people come to my office. Pana, this information we get to SO2. Low talk. And we refused. Of course we paid the price. They wrote what they wrote. We never came back to do rebuttal. And of course the justice system was not available to protect us either. So indeed, we join you, Mr. Speaker, in talking about safeguards. When we come to that part of the debate, we want to know what role the IMC and the courts will play to safeguard. Reputations are hard to build. Some of us have spent 30, 40 years doing the right thing to build their reputation. And so we need to know what the safeguards will be to protect us.
The leader of the Coalition for Change C4C party at the Salone Parliament, Honorable Sir Emerson Lamina, said on behalf of his party in support for repeal the criminal libel law and tell thank you to all stakeholders them. We don't try in their own different way them for make this happen, but safe been take time for caution journalists them.
We on the side of C4C do not consider it being controversial. And therefore, we have no waste of time but to support for its ratification. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, we have seen post-war flagella candidates and presidents who made promise to repeal this particular section of the infamous 1965 Part 5 of this public order act did not come to pass. I want to take this similar honor to congratulate the present president who made that promise during his campaign and it came to pass. Because it is not a controversial bill, I must make sure to pass president at large, including ID Cargo, Umaru Fofana, Kelvin Lewis, Venezuela, and Frank Oto of blessed memory, who actually punched and pushed. Some even demonstrated that this particular repeal was up in their time. But it never came to pass. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, repealing this act, we definitely next Sierra Leone be bereaved of character assassination, bereaved of telling someone who's just had a law for the past 55 years. Mr. Speaker, in as much as who ratified or about to ratify this particular bill, no problem. It also cannot be gainsaid that we expect journalism and journalists to be taxed, to be intelligent, prompt in taking decisions, and fairness in the articles and radio station journalists. Mr. Speaker, at the end of it all, it was also the intention of we the C4C, I must state it. If you look right through our manifesto, it was our intention that we repeal, and even a dream of our erstwhile flag bearer candidate, Chief Samsumana, to repeal this particular section. And therefore, all in all, what we will do, we will appeal to the journalists, the administration of large, to encourage many journalists and editors to be more mature, even as they attend to their civil lawsuit at Libel. All in all, conclusion, I must congratulate the Prime Minister of Information and Communication, who convinced and lobbied his colleague cabinet members. Today, it has seen the light of day.
After plenty point them from plenty MP them for support the process for repeal this over 50-year law, where plenty people believe say not good for any country where they practice democracy. When the criminal libel law, the leader of government business, Honorable Matthew Sanyuma, been get this for say as he been round up the debates.
Mr. Speaker, when we are in the when we are in the committee room, you reminded me. You told me when I went to you, Mr. Speaker, listen to again. When I take time to what you do, you are representing the people of this nation. You are people's representatives. So I heard people say, "Oh, we are called for safeguards." That means we want to make us dictators in this house. We did not call for safeguards. What my predecessor echoed, he said, the people are calling for safeguard, so we should come with the IMCB Act. That's the exact words. So when we went to the pre-legislative hearing, that was an educative pre-legislative hearing, and I made a correction. I said to Mr. Minister, we did not call for safeguards. The people called for safeguards, and we just re-echo what they called for, and that is what we are doing. We have no malice. We just want to represent our people. Politicians in this nation are not respected, Mr. Speaker. They don't respect us. They bastardize us all around the place. But you know, faith, our prayers, will save us all the time, and that should take us to heaven. Even what we are doing today, they are doing easy, blasting us. Now, what money they want? They are not paying us since we started today. We are still here. We are still talking. But we are serving the people. So if you want to go to us directly, even though we are not respected by people. People voted in they voted for us to come here. When they asked us for simple things, we don't have the means to do it, they started blasting us. Bastardizing us. Vilify us. But Mr. Speaker, we are not creating a platform to make politics. We are creating a platform today to make history. What is the history? The history is not to go and throw stone. The history is not to abuse people. The history is not to destroy your character or tarnish your image. The history I'm making here today is to practice decent journalism and a decent way of holding the media to account. That's what we are doing today. We are not encouraging reckless journalism. When we come to the IMC, Mr. Speaker, it is clearly enshrined. How do we deal with those things? Why do we need to train our journalists? It is there. That's the reason I told you, we are not going to treat them separately. We are going to treat them like twins. Until we finish this business right here, Mr. Minister, give us the time and the latitude for us to deal with this matter very seriously. So I even told you, when I'm going to put it to committee stage, what we are going to do? We are going to even have the report and have a committee of the whole house again to look at it properly, simultaneously. So we rest assured, honorable members and all of us, that this is a time for us to change the narrative, to be part of history, not to destroy history, to maintain history till eternity, till all of us, our day will come when we say goodbyes to this world.
After the leader of government business been talk this and different other issue them inside the process for repeal this law, wetin been clear na the fact say Parliament not being able for repeal this law the same day as them still dey wait for get the Independent Media Commission Amended Act 2020 wey go serve as redeemer of this law wey Parliament dey try for pull comot. A clear back say this na the biggest step inside the process for repeal the criminal libel law from the 1965 Public Order Act. This make member them of Parliament been agree for send the Public Order Act with it now as bill to the Legislative Committee of the Salone Parliament so that they go take time for look inside and fine and the IMC amended bill 2020 for satisfy say if them pull come up part 5 of the 1965 Public Order Acts, the IMC amended Act of 2020 go able for play in role fine for guide journalists them by the work when they do. For Salone Parliament Eye on Black TV Online, me na Abdullah Bla the reports.